Greetings, nerds. This is Scene and Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How you doing this Tuesday evening?
I'm doing good, okay, I don't know if our listeners have noticed, but a few weeks ago, Will made an executive decision and kicked all of our news items to the end of the show,
Yep.
which I'm fine with. I am perfectly fine with. But now... it's when he does these little things where I'm like, we're really going to save that for the end of the show? That's a great opener. Why does Will hate Stranger Things?
Let's start right there. Okay. I don't hate Stranger Things. I don't.
Well, okay. You may not hate it, but
I've just forgotten what the hell happened with it. It's just been like 10 years, and like it's like, okay,
you don't remember the only thing that I arguably remember. Well, I remember a few things. Vecna, the big bad, was we found out was like the original, was also created by the same people who created 11, and like they had a relationship of sorts. And so they tied it very cleverly all the way back to the first episode, to the pilot episode. So that's everything going on with 11. And that's the only important stuff, because 90% of what happens in seasons 3 and 4 revolving around 11 does not matter, except for that fact. Okay. Then the other most important thing, the only reason why I remember season 4 and season 4 has stuck with me is because of Sadie Sink and her whole like Vecna going after her, and then us not knowing if she's alive or dead, because we see in her mind like she's unconscious in a coma and she's no longer in that living room space. So I remember things. I do agree with you. Like Stranger Things is one of those shows where it hits the zeitgeist, and then it disappears. And then you're like, oh, like I've forgotten about you. But every time we come back to it, I feel like for better or for worse, like especially season 4, I was checked out after season 3, but like Maya Hawke, I remember, was the only reason why I liked season 3, and was still someone on board. Maya and Steve, like their dynamic. So for whatever reason, I feel like it's one of those shows where honestly, I think time apart is important. Yeah. And then it'll hit. And this is the last time it'll hit, and it's coming in 3 parts. We got the first part. Now all I hear is parts. So you're going to have to fill me in on how many episodes we're expecting on, what was it? November 26th, this Christmas Day and New Year's.
Yeah. New Year's Eve. So it's 8 episodes for the final season.
Each?
No, total.
So how many parts? Like
3 parts.
Part 1, we're getting how many? No, there's 3 parts.
Right.
So how did they divide it?
I haven't looked to see how they have broken it down, but I did look to see what was the episode count, and it was like 8 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder which one got short. Probably the New Year's Eve. It's probably going to be 3-3-2. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Because I would think one of them would be like a very like almost a feature length, ending or beginning. So
yeah. The New Year's Eve is going to be like that. The ending, like, but we don't know episode lengths, because I remember season 4, especially the second half of season 4, it was like, whoa. We may be getting 4 episodes, but they were like 2 hours long each.
So yeah, so I went quickly while we were talking. I went to Netflix.com because they did the big to dumb release, their big like streaming thing over the weekend. And so it's going to be 4 episodes on November the 26th,
Right.
3 episodes on Christmas, and the finale will be New Year's Day, New Year's Eve.
Oh, so they went 4-3-1, but
Yep,
that one episode will probably be 3.5 hours long.
probably. Exactly. So
Jeez. And I
yeah.
will probably fast forward 40 minutes of it.
Yeah, I did, yeah, because I guess they did have their big event over the weekend, and that they did have I guess a sizzle reel that had maybe basically it was like a recap of like I did watch it. It just had like a recap of just pretty much everything up to this point, and then just a few, just a handful of scenes, not even a handful, just a tease of scenes for the final season, which
Yeah.
which obviously which makes total sense. And it's one of those things everybody's going to tune in, so you don't need a trailer.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
Also at that event, and also what we are expecting to arrive now in 2026, early 2026, is One Piece season 2. Did they show anything? I mean, I know we got teased a character because
Right.
I forget the character's name, but they showed up.
Yeah. 2020 Chopper, which apparently,
Yeah.
yeah, and I know the internet went nuts because both of us are non watchers of the or readers of the manga or watch and the animated stuff, so we're coming to it fresh, eyes, no backstory, but I just know all the fandom, and we're very, very excited with the news of this particular character showing up. So
Yeah.
listeners, if you're a One Piece aficionado and can fill us in on what the backstory is for this character, please, I'm happy to hear it. So just hit it in the comments or hit us on our socials.
Yeah. But limit, because don't spoil.
Yeah. Don't spoil. Yeah.
Sure, give it a grace. I know that's the hardest thing to do, and you know this. Like you want to tell people information, but then again, you can't spoil anything, because a part of the reason why I liked One Piece season 1 is because I didn't have any sense of the world. Like, they really had to develop it for me and flesh out the live action version of this world, and I had to get into it that way, as opposed to, oh, well, I'm going to watch this show, so let me do a what is One Piece 101. It's I don't know. But
and
little,
I've done the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, little overviews are good, but be careful. We don't have to wait for 2026 for the next one, but we are anticipating it, I think, in September of this year, Gen V season 2, and I did watch the trailer.
I did too.
And like, let's go.
Yep, yes, exactly. Yeah, I really enjoyed that trailer. And it did, obviously we sadly did lose Chance Perdomo, as he was sadly heading to film season 2 and had that tragic motorcycle accident. But they did work it. We did see how they were going to work it into the trailer, but also we do see a new superintendent for the school, and since, and also the tie-ins to the previous season of The Boys. So yeah, I'm with you. Like, let's fucking go.
Yep. Let's go. So
but the first 3 episodes will drop September 17, and then the remaining 5 will air each Wednesday, concluding on October 22nd.
All right. Well, now that we're done talking about things that are new and ahead. We must revisit the past because Will made me. And we both have rewatched Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, because obviously we finished Andor season 2 not too long ago. And so Will, why don't you kick us off on this revisit to this movie?
Yeah. Well, before I hit the rewatch of the whole of Rogue One, we're also covering the studio tonight. So we're basically going to the galaxy far, far away, and then we're also going to be talking about Rogue One, which, I just really wanted to just know your thoughts after watching Andor. What was your initial impression with Rogue One whenever you first watched the film, and then now after Andor? How has that changed your thoughts about the movie, Sarah?
Okay. Everyone heard the question, and everyone knows that I'm gonna be honest. My initial impression of the movie, I loved Rogue One. I remember watching it in theaters, having a blast. Rewatching it after Andor season 2, did not like it as much. Did not like it as much for so many reasons. But yeah. So that is that. Yep, that is my answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's I appreciate your honesty. I mean, I've watched it twice now. After I watched it immediately after I finished Andor, and then I watched it again this past weekend. And I will say, I think after the initial high of like coming off of season 2 of Andor, I even said before, it definitely hits different. Um, and I still think it does. I mean, I think it definitely fleshes out a lot of things, and we can get into it as we discuss it here tonight. But on second rewatch, after having a week or so after the finale of Andor, I definitely, there are some definite things with it where that high that I had before, some of the elements, I don't know if it's elements of of Rogue One, don't don't work as well for me, but also, but there are some things that really double down my feelings about certain other aspects of the film. And one of the first ones is, really Cassian's journey. To me, really, I think Andor definitely makes Cassian's journey and the Cassian Andor that we see in Rogue One. I feel like it definitely elevates his story before, because I remember when I initially watched Rogue One, and especially thinking back to 2019 or 18 when they were going to have this series, you know, I was like, of the characters in this film, I always felt it was Jyn Erso's film, and that's the other thing too. Even with Cassian's story being fleshed out more, I still feel like that Rogue One is still Jyn's story.
Yeah.
But they're yeah.
What were you gonna say?
No, no, I still feel it's Jyn's story, but also I think, especially on the second rewatch, the parallels between the two characters are just even more pronounced to me now than they were when I did the initial rewatch a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean, like, coming off of Andor season 2, I think Andor is a bit judgmental of Jyn. I do that. And honestly, upon rewatching, I don't think this movie is anybody's story. Like, it's so quick. Everything is so quick. And I feel like the final battle lasts at least half of the movie, if not like a good third of the movie long.
Yeah.
That's what took me back. Like
Mm,
I was like, whoa, I thought, man, we barely get anything. And it's just like introduce this character, introduce this character, introduce this character, this character, this MacGuffin, this.
mm,
And to get the crew together, to get them all on Jeddah and everything, like, yeah, it's Jin's story because the father aspect, of course,
mm,
and the Krennic, like, and I do appreciate overall all of the dialogue about like which side are you on and the grayness in this movie. And I think that's
mm,
what I enjoyed about it the first
mm,
time I watched it. But the second time, I was sitting there like, well, Andor, now that I know your story and how you came here, like, who are you to call Jin a flip-flopper when like a year prior you were ready to abandon the rebellion? Like, you're a bit high and mighty to be like, I don't know. There was just a
yeah.
few things, and then some of the dialogue, the rebellion was built on hope. I'm just like, okay, I feel like I've heard this line now 600 times. So can we ixnay on it? And it's just, I think that I know everyone compares this movie to like a war film,
Mm,
which is true. And I think that in a lot of war films, I'm gonna pull a Nolan,
yeah.
Dunkirk. So
Yeah.
Dunkirk isn't about any of the soldiers. It's about
Mm,
the event.
mm,
It's an event-based movie. Pearl Harbor, like, really, that should have been about the event, but they tacked on a full love triangle and all of this other stuff. So it was about the event and like an hour and a half of BS. So in this movie, I think to an extent, if I feel like part of the angle was like this is more about rectifying how these plans got to where they needed to go in solving
yeah.
this mystery, and also why it was so easy to destroy the Death Star. Like, to retcon all of that,
Mm,
like they skimmed and they gave us like surface level characters, but I just have a hard time after rewatching it and just spending what felt like 1,800 hours with Andor, that this movie is not anyone's story. I mean, it
mm,
does say a Star Wars story. It's about this, how to defeat the Death Star and like
yeah.
everyone else. And I think also because everyone dies.
Mm,
So like they're gonna only spend so much time. They have like what, 25 characters to set up in this
yeah.
movie.
There were a lot. There were a lot. I agree with you on the point. I guess that's the other thing too. I think that I agree with you that it was. I felt, and even that this was an ensemble film. But also, I would even say that Andor was in a lot of ways an ensemble show. Because we when we look about the rich tapestries of characters that we learn about over the course of the two seasons. And we definitely get some more establishment of Krennic, especially in season two. Um, so at least whenever we see his journey, when we see Krennic's ambition, really
we
just
got we
yeah.
got sorry to cut you off, but we got way more Krennic in this movie than we did
Hmm.
Andor. However, I will
Yeah.
say his scenes in Andor are better than his scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
It's weird to me, but like, and maybe it's because we got too much of Krennic, arguably. So like, he, I felt like he was more of a villain and probably because Tarkin wasn't really around during Andor, at least from what we saw. So, so there wasn't that, and then you had Deirdre and Cyril. So Krennic came out there and fully filling that next boss level villain, while in Rogue One, like he's the Cyril of Rogue One.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, yeah, especially whenever he gives the line, we stand here amid my achievement, not yours, especially when he's talking to Tarkin. So, so he's just, his ambition, and it was just, to your point, where, in Andor, he was definitely, more center stage, because, we do get the, the whole, Calkite backstory, and, how ISB was, and him being a part of the directorate, built, it's building a Death Star. But I will say, but one thing I do like that Andor, with all the breakdowns in security and stuff, whenever we see it, in Rogue One, and how Vader comes in and like takes over, the project and stuff, as far as, because of all the security failures and everything else. I think it definitely, it reminds me of the conversation that Krennic and Partagaz had in Andor, as far as, save the speech and the groveling for for Palpatine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like also Darth Vader's in this movie, and comes and we see one of the more iconic Darth Vader sequences at the end. So I think it's that's the thing about Star Wars and its villains. It can create really good villains, but there's always the next one. Mm-hmm. And they always seem to undermine the previous one that they built up. So it's just this weird thing. And arguably with the heroes, it's a very similar pattern, but it's a very large galaxy. So yeah.
The other thing too is just thinking about Krennic, and then we can talk about a couple of other things. But the other thing that really hit harder for me, as far as when I was saying things hit hard for me after watching it, was just whenever Krennic was looking up at Scarif and seeing the Death Star right before it fired on Scarif. To your point about people, having their moments, and the next guy is, next in line is ready to fill in the void. And how, I guess, with both shows, both Andor and also the film of Rogue One, it just really reinforces just how how expendable, and just basically you're just a cog in the wheel, that how during that the Empire treated their subjects, not only the people, as far as these planets, but also just the people, the Imperial soldiers, in the bureaucracy of the Galactic Empire. But what do you think about that? We did have a little bit of the Force, more of the Force, as far as this show, than the brief glimpse that we had in Rogue One, than we had in Andor with the Force healer. What were your impressions of that? You think it was the right amount? Did it not make any difference to you one way or another? Especially Cassian's reaction to the faith healer, versus when we see Kuruk, who is like one of the wills, who guarded the Jedi temple there on Jeddah.
Did he have a different reaction?
I think he, I was looking for that, and I didn't really see. Yeah, I didn't. Given how they sort of set that up in Andor with the in episode.
In Andor season 2, yeah.
I was looking for that with the in Rogue One, and didn't really see it as far as the Cassian's reaction. I think other than, I guess, when they were first in Jeddah, I mean, he wasn't as taken aback by it, I guess, as he was that that his reaction was toward the faith healer there on the Camp in Yavin. And as far as my Star Wars rankings, as far as films and stuff, I think it's still in my top like 5.
Mhm.
I think after season 2 of Andor, I was feeling like, it was like, still Empire still number 1 for me. But but I think I've slid New Hope back up just a little bit over it again. And now I think it's probably my 3rd favorite of the bunch.
I think that I would have gotten more out of it and more appreciation because, like, to go back to our conversation about the series finale of Andor, like I did admit that I wanted to watch Rogue One
Yeah.
immediately after it, which is what a good prequel should do. Now, did I? No, because Will told me we were doing this, so I withheld. And I think that's where a mistake was made. But I do think that if you're going to watch Andor, like, you're going to inevitably watch Rogue One, like, shortly after it. They go hand in hand, and I think that and that's good. That's good. I think as an isolated film, having seen Andor, it just again, the story is so quick.
Yeah.
And it is all about setting up this big event that goes on, and we all know how I feel about spectacle. And it's not a character piece. Andor arguably is more of a character piece.
Yeah.
But Rogue One is more about just retconning and making things right with.
Yeah. Well, I did say that really it really, I guess, if you wanted to like look at it in the sense of like TV series or whatever, it's just like it's like a finale. It's like we did all this setup, and then
It's like what Stranger Things season 4, that final episode will be like. It'll be that kind of finale. So to that extent, I feel like I spent a lot of time berating Andor, and I will say, like, honestly, rewatching Rogue One made me like Jin a lot less as well. Because when I say, like, I saw a lot of hypocrisy with Andor, I didn't mean in the sense that he was wrong. I meant more like I know more about him, so some of the things he's saying and doing ain't adding up. While with Jin, I was like, I know the same about you, and yeah, you are like 1 minute poor, like she. I don't feel like there's any growth, which is really weird. There's so many, like, I could probably spend an hour really nitpicking, but I won't. We'll move on. But yeah, like I had, again, I still remember seeing in theaters and that experience and really being all in on that movie. This is just time away. And probably just overconsumption of Star Wars for me. So on that note, we will move on to the studio, season 1, episode 1, the promotion. Matt Rennick is named the new head of Continental Studios and put in charge of a project that threatens public humiliation. So we are going to, for the next couple of weeks, be breaking down the new show, the studio. The season's already over. All episodes have aired, but we're playing catch up. And this is a bit out of our regular genre-oriented film and TV show recaps, but I've heard a lot of good things about it, and Will agreed that
Yeah.
maybe we should change it up just a little bit, because we will be getting back into the superhero stuff in only a few weeks.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and so, okay, I enjoyed the first episode. A few things though.
Yeah.
If I look back at my experience, I have to say I don't think I laughed out loud a single time, and this is a comedy. So take that with what it may. There was just something about the humor. I wasn't like annoyed or frustrated or was like, no, the dialogue is really fast.
Yeah.
I was also very much distracted throughout the entire episode because, and I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on this, but the entire episode and what I was not expecting, the score. They played jazz, up-tempo jazz music throughout the entire episode. There's one scene where they pulled it back and it turned into a piano score. And I was distracted because it wasn't like you could barely hear it. No, I felt like there were at times when the dialogue was competing with this music. And I was like torn into two. But at the same time, I appreciated it because it allowed momentum. And it's something also that, in looking back at a lot of the things we've covered over the last few years, we haven't had a lot of. Like, we've had scores, but they're usually played over the course of montages or like subtly played during a long pause in a scene after somebody says something. But this, it was just like it was pacing the entire episode as we watch Matt deal with this promotion and deal with I don't know, Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid. So I did it. I am still very curious about where we're going with this. But honestly, it wasn't the humor that was like my big takeaway. It was just about the use of music and not like music here on the radio, but like a real score to underscore all of this very small show about one person trying to make the movies he wants, but also what the studio wants, which the studio just wants to make a lot of money. But I don't know, what were some of your big takeaways, Will?
Yeah, it's funny that you brought up about the score, because I think for me it complemented it, like for when I think about it, because it didn't overtake the story. Because sometimes the scores, they'll overtake things and all, but it's funny, I messaged you. I didn't watch the show until last night, and not because I wasn't interested. It was just how things broke for me. But I did laugh out loud. I mean, whenever I was watching the episode, and I know whenever it was initially released, I think they did episodes 1 and 2 back to back. But that being said, when I was watching it, I was like, I was like, first of all, thank you for suggesting this, because this show seemed like it was like made for us, in a sense. And and even though, like you said, I mean, maybe even if you didn't laugh out loud funny, it is a dramedy. But there's definitely some humor. There are elements in it that just to me just really really worked. And it reminded me of a show that I don't know if you ever heard of, Call My Agent. No. Yeah, so there's a show on Netflix. Well, it's originally from France, and it's a global show now. I mean, there's like other countries spin-offs of it, where it's about a an agency, entertain, who people who represent stars. So they've, just like this show, they have like, they have the it actor or actress, director, in the entertainment industry in France. And so when I was watching the studio, it also reminded me of that show, but this time it was on the studio side, as far as the executives who are greenlighting projects and all that. So so I was, so once it started, I was already kind of predisposed to like liking this, and so whenever I started watching it, I will say whenever it began, and we saw, it didn't start how I expected it to, with the whole Paul Dano like action movie scene, the scene there with the fighting and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I liked the way it started, because it was just like it really, since it is a studio and it really was the production aspects of it, I was like, oh, okay, we got this, we got this. And then, I love how like Seth Rogen, but Matt Remnick, his character, was just like rolling up there trying to give notes, and Peter Berg was just like, no, and they were just kind of blowing him off. So for me, it was just like, it started off in a way I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like this.
Yeah. So speaking about that opening, there's a tie-in when he goes to talk to Patty, who he replaced, and Patty is played by Catherine O'Hara, who apparently we're just a Catherine O'Hara summer, because we just had her in Last of Us, and now we're getting her as Patty.
Yeah.
So it was great. I love that tie-in. And I mean, Catherine Hahn is also in this, aka Agatha. Maybe that was something that, if I'm being honest, I love Catherine Hahn for some reason, and Agatha was last summer, so you would think I would be like somewhat over it, but I think she's just like, I will always relate her to Agatha. For me, I was just like, girl, you're trying too hard in this show. You're not working for me.
Oh, so see, she totally, I think her character's name is Maya. I think totally worked for me. I was just like digging it. It just like reminded me of like why Catherine Hahn is just so this is such an amazing performer. Because I hear what you're saying. I think, for about maybe the first couple moments there, it was like, okay, I had to reorient myself. But once we really got into it, and especially when she came up with the promo that they were going to like show the studio, the CEO, Bryan Cranston's character. I was like, oh yeah. I mean, all of that, and just the whole scene with the whole bit where they're like trying to like make it, even with Seth Rogen's character was just like, seeing the promo at first and trying to figure out how that promo, because he's, it's that tension of trying to be, trying to like make, be an auteur and make these like, films that are, movies versus film, and, trying to make these things. I thought she really sold, to me, she really sold it as far as being that marketing person. And whenever they were having the back and forth, as far as just like, whatever the back and forth about whether or not this was going to work or not, as far as how do you market Steve Buscemi, and then how they could even, and even in that scene, they were like trying to figure out.
That stuff is good, because they did say a lot of stuff that educated audience members usually want to say, these are all factors, like the mechanics of getting a film not made but even greenlit.
Mhm.
And trying to think about like, okay, this is a product at the end of the day, and you're
Yeah.
trying to sell it to an audience. So yeah, you may want an actor who is quote unquote well known to like a niche group, but that won't sell a movie. I mean, we always talk about movie stars. Granted, movie
Mhm.
stars, there's also the current conversation that movie stars are dead, and like
Yeah.
it's more about the IP and the franchise, which they get into the IP, and the other ongoing bit is this whole discussion about like Barbie making a
Mhm.
shit ton of money. And but Barbie also, like, there's a lot of factors into it, and it's not just because like of Greta Gerwig. Like, I didn't really buy into that point that Matt made. Like, and it's not because of Margot Robbie or Ryan Gosling. It's because it it's I still have yet to see the movie, but from what I understand, it's a good movie, A.
It is. Yep, it is.
So B, it also, because it's about a doll, it's marketed to children, but it's also for the parents.
Mhm.
Like, and it came out and it came out as counter programming for Oppenheimer, and then you had Barbenheimer. So
Yeah.
like there were so many factors, and so I'm curious to see how much they continue down that, all of that. Like, that was a once in a lifetime. But hearing the pitches about Kool-Aid, and you get your Jamestown version, the Martin Scorsese evil dark version, and then you get like the other version from
Yeah,
Nick
Nick Stoller.
Stoller,
Yeah.
and it's just like, yeah, this makes sense. This adds up. And I think the what really has this show going for it, and probably why a lot of people first looked into it and got hooked, is authenticity.
Mhm.
Like Seth Rogen's behind it. He's been in the game for a while,
Yeah.
and like wearing multiple hats. So he has access to a lot of people
Yeah.
already flaunting it,
Mhm.
and B, you know that he's gonna come at it from a very authentic place.
Yeah.
Um, and so it'll I like no, the humor for whatever reason did not hit for me in this one episode. But the story overall, again, has me very interested and curious. And I think there's that it's it's also a fresh breath fresh air.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, this isn't a show where I'm going to sit here and break down every single scene and Easter egg and all of that, because it's not that kind of show. It's much more of like a Bear, where we're going to get a few episodes and go over like a character arc, one or two, depending on what happens. But it's also not layered in mythology and stuff that is in other shows. But
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. I think that's part of, I think, after, after coming off of The Last of Us and Andor, and, even, and also before that, we had Daredevil.
yep.
So, we've just had, um, I think so far this year, we've had two shows that are truly like original stories, or original, like, original type things. Paradise, and now the studio. And I think and this is why I always, and I will give uh, a proper hat tip to you for suggesting that we do these things, because I think it is a nice palate cleanser
Mm-hmm.
from the IP driven, content that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, because watching this show, it's just like, oh yeah, because not, clearly, one, because we have, our primary focus here on the pod is the big IP driven kind of things. And so to have this satire come after, just back to back to back to back of the big IP. I was like, this is a real palate cleanser, and I just really enjoyed it, and just seeing that seeing that tension
Right.
that Matt Remnick has about wanting to like have true art versus the popcorn, thing that, the Kool-Aid store, the Kool-Aid, just get butts in seats, and I'll spend $10 million, to get our, that was the other funny thing too. It was just like how he was literally making it up this as he went along, just like, cause we spent $10 million to buy Scorsese's script, and then he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I bought it to kill it, and
To
it just
kill it.
really,
Yeah.
yeah,
It was a very smart way to get the character out of that situation.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
very well written. But I don't think, now I haven't seen enough of this show to know for sure, but I don't necessarily think that he wants to be an auteur. Like, I think that he just wants to make good movies.
yeah. Well, yeah,
like
yeah,
like I just feel like, from what we saw and the way it's spoken about, is that you're I think, because he's also a studio person, so he's not
yeah.
behind the camera. He's
Hmm.
not he's not in front of the camera as an actor. So, and they always talk about, actors and directors always talk about storytelling and
Yeah.
wanting to. So I just feel like Matt and the way they've introduced the studio to us, like, they're in the business of making movies now.
Hmm.
What gets greenlit, like what movies get made,
Hmm.
that's the big concept that's getting brought. Like, it all falls on him to decide what gets made and what doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, and so then we're presented with this IP, and it's like, okay, you got to build a story, and then you got these two different versions going on in very unexpected ways.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if it's a conversation yet fully about, like, IP versus original storytelling, because arguably Martin Scorsese's wasn't even original, because that's about an actual event that did
Yeah.
happen, like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
probably have had several iterations already done before, but this is a brand new retelling, blah blah blah.
True.
So, and just because of all of that, just because something's original doesn't mean it's good. And what, earlier this year we were talking about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and we were
Hmm.
just like, this isn't original, but it feels so refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Like, it's so, right now, given everything that has happened in terms of specifically comic book movies and TV shows and franchises and those known IPs, this explosion,
Hmm.
it's an interesting conversation, because I don't feel like a good movie and an IP are mutually exclusive. Like, there are a lot of good movies that are based on IP,
Yeah.
and are
Yeah.
not original,
Yeah.
but there is something to be said for how that is drenching the marketplace and allowing fewer original ideas to get made less and
Hmm.
less. Like,
Yeah.
I wonder if this show will go into the romantic comedy area,
Mm.
because there is a subtle conversation going on right now about how, like, romantic comedies are few and far between, but, like, 10, 15 years ago, it was like every other week a new one was coming out. And it was like a reconnaissance before reconnaissance.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. As we dive deeper into the, I guess it's 10 episodes that
10
this,
episodes.
first season has. I'm hopeful that we will get that, because I mean, I think even Matt, to your point, I think even Matt, Seth Rogen's character, even made that point. It's just like, you can have you can have good films, and they're not mutually exclusive.
No.
And so I think that's what he was. I think that's the tension that, like you said. Oh, yeah, maybe I was when I was saying auteur, he was, he was, whenever he was, trying to shoehorn his vision of, like, yeah, making good films, but also I got to make a shitload of money to keep my job, otherwise I'm end up like Patty. When he fell upon Scorsese, he was trying to, like, that's what I thought was so well, why this pilot was just so well written. To really, hit that point that we were just talking about here. It's like you can have a good film, but it can also, just because it's artsy fartsy doesn't necessarily mean it has to be, go broke. I mean, it can all, you can have a great film, and it can also be based off the Kool-Aid, which I thought that was just like, oh yeah, so.
Yeah. So for the next 2 weeks, we will be doing 3 episodes each week. And then we're going to go back to one-offs as Ironheart will begin at the end of this month. So, and just forewarning to our listeners, we are entering, when Ironheart begins, our schedule will be very chaotic. We will be jumping around from Tuesday nights to Thursday nights to a Wednesday night to back to a Thursday night. So just forewarning, and bear with us as we try to hit everything as freshly as possible, because we got 2 giant movies also in July, as we're trying to wrap up a few different shows. So stay tuned, but for the next 2 weeks at least, we're going to be talking about the studio, and we hope you are along for the ride. So on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on all the socials at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me there too at SJ Belmont, SJBLMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at Scene and Nerd, on Blue Sky. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Threads at scene_n_nerd, and visit our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.